Now that you are familiar with the basics of wiring, we will teach you how to wire several components. The components we will cover are a contactor and a relay. Recall that all components have a hot, ground, and neutral wire. Recall that a contactor is a type of switch used in high-voltage circuits. A contactor is a common component in electrical systems. There are several types of contactors like 1-pole, 2-pole, and 3-pole contactors. In this module, we will be wiring a 1-pole contactor. A contactor has three parts: the incoming power terminals, the exit terminals, and the 24 volts terminals. All of these components are labeled in the diagram to the right. To know where to connect each wire, you will need to refer to the wiring diagram. Wiring diagrams will label each port on the contactor. For example, you will notice that the wiring diagram labels the contactor 12. You can find a 12 marking on the contactor. You use this number to know which wire to insert into each port. To begin wiring the contactor, we need to turn the power off. Before handling any wires, you must use your multimeter to confirm there is 0 volts in the wire. Recall that L1 and L2 bring power into the system. The incoming power terminals are ports for L1 and L2 to connect into. Next, we need to insert the 24 volts wire into the two terminals. In this case, the 24 volts comes from the thermostat. Finally, we need to connect wires into the output terminals. The wires leaving the output terminals will connect to other components. Let's look at an example of how to wire a contactor. We will use the same wiring diagram that we have been using. The contactor has been highlighted in the image. We need to start by turning the power off to the circuit. Once the power is off, connect L1 into terminal 11 on the contactor. L2 connects into terminal 23 on the contactor. Once we have inserted L1 and L2, we need to connect the 24 volts wires from the thermostat. Finally, we need to wire the contactor outputs. The wiring diagram shows multiple wires going from terminal 21 to other components. We will use a crimp-on connector to terminate multiple wires. In the schematic, you can see that wires go from terminal 21 to the SR, comp, and OFM. To achieve this, we need to insert 3 wires into the crimp-on that terminates into terminal 21. Each of the 3 wires in the crimp-on will go to a component. We will repeat this process for terminal 23, which connects to the comp and ST. Once these connections are complete, the contactor has been wired.